because every time I float this thing around in my head, Coach, what is it that you think about? There's only two choices right now. Listen, no, nothing against Tim Walter, the governor of Minnesota, but Tim, you offer us nothing. Stay in Minnesota, keep shit locked down over there. Mark Kelly, senator, astronaut, military, hero. I mean, I read a book. I forgot the name of the book. How could I forget the name of the book? One of the greatest books I ever read. Talked about these kids growing up and in the family of military and becoming a soldier and then becoming an astronaut and becoming and Mark Kelly, except Coach, the fear of losing that seat in Arizona in the next election. You're only going to get an interim to fill the spot right now. Somebody, and chances of somebody, of Democrat winning. Listen, Mark Kelly's popularity and his position is what helped him win as a Democrat. And then you got, then you got, right. I mean, it's what helped. And can Arizona afford? Can Democrats afford to lose Arizona in any way? Fuck no. You can't afford to lose nothing. So, Coach, I come to you with this first, and then there's Josh Shapiro.
You know, I think you made a fantastic point about not wanting to lose that seat in the Senate for Arizona. I really hadn't given it that much thought, other than in thinking about Mark Kelly, is that yes, he's an American hero by most people's measure, but he doesn't have the pull the way that someone like Shapiro has over the whole state. If you look at it right now in the polls, Arizona's a tight race for Harris and Trump, but that's common. It's a tight race. That's why it's a swing state. It's always a tight race down there. Right. Pennsylvania is really the critical state when it comes to a need-win situation. So when you're looking at Pennsylvania right now, the polls are showing a tight race, and Pennsylvania's only gone red once, 2016 for Trump. The rest of the time it's pretty much been a blue state. Even though it's a tight race, there's enough Democrats to put them over the edge. Harris is polling, a +1, +2 for some polls, but Trump comes out a +1, +2 in other polls. However, one of the most interesting polls that I saw, which really makes me think that Shapiro is the guy and anyone else is just going to hurt the situation. Shapiro, they put a head-to-head of Shapiro against Trump. Shapiro came out at a +10. So his popularity inside of Pennsylvania is so profound that he would smother Trump in the election. There's no touching him. So if you add him to the ticket with Kamala, I think you almost guarantee Pennsylvania as a blue state for this election, and we really do need that. And
that's right. And you said it.
It's a no-brainer.
And you said it. He said it, Lori, that in Pennsylvania, unlike Arizona, that's a blue state, okay? They're not going to, it's highly unlikely they're going to elect a Republican governor, so the chances of getting a Democratic governor are much better. The appeal of Shapiro, and Coach, you said it, not like this, but those precious 19 electoral college votes. That, Lori, is what's important about Shapiro.
Exactly. The more electoral points we got to get to that 270 mark, and that's a big state to do it. And Shapiro, what's appealing about him too, I think he's moderate, like Waltz. He's more progressive, and I think our country needs that. We need a moderate white guy to go along with the black president, female. I'm sorry, but that's the truth.
Yeah, something you just brought up, and we got topics tonight, folks, but I'm glad she brought that up. That's a good thing, and it's a damn shame. What am I talking about? Well, Kamala Harris, and we'll get into this part later. The African American, Indian, Asian vice president, would be president. has to pick. It is like we know the sun's going to come up in the morning. It's going to be cloudy, and if we see clouds, there's probably rain coming. And we just know these things, right? We also know that Kamala Harris has to pick a white man. Now, it's a shame because you look, and we'll talk later on about Trump's wonderful hangout with the National Association of Black Journalists. We'll talk about that later on. We're going to finish the show with that one. But in the shadow of women of color, minorities continue to fight for their place in the world, to separate themselves from the white man. And I'm only talking about the bad shit, okay? So don't get all emotional. She needs a white man to run with her. And it's kind of crazy, you know, Coach, but that it has to be, and everybody already knew that. You can't do a woman.
It's politics. I mean, it's politics. Are there great matchups? Yeah, you know, one of the matchups that I heard about was like, you know, put Adam Kinzinger on the ticket with Kamala, and you're going to draw in a lot of those, you know, moderate Republicans. And I think, wow, that's a fantastic idea, but it's also a fucking political risk. You know, fantastic ideas don't necessarily win elections, and that's the case.
Too much of
the idea is, you know, we understand that we still have to woo a certain amount of independent voters. And some of those independent voters have these biases, if you will, you know. And as much as they're willing to go the distance and vote for Kamala, who's a black female / Asian descent, you know, and they can overcome that. But I don't think they can overcome a certain combination like, you know, Buttigieg. You know, Pete is probably a great guy. I think, you know, he's doing his best in a position that he's in, you know, all those things. But being openly gay, I think, would push away
it's a ticket
number of voters that we need.
It's a ticket killer. Yeah.
And what? I mean, let's be honest. I mean, just like with Kamala, I was having dinner with a friend of mine today. And the whole idea is that the vice president, they stand in the shadows. You know, this is not a job where you're supposed to be drawing attention to yourself. It's not a job where your platform matters. It's not a job where your integrity is on the line all the time. That's for the president to handle. The president's the one in front of the TVs. The president's the one giving speeches. The president's the one managing the country. And the vice president is off in the shadows doing a job that they've been, you know, given by the president. So you don't really hear a lot. The question was, you know, my friend was like, you know, he was apprehensive when they heard Kamala's name thrown in the mix because he didn't really know anything that she had done or accomplished or anything. And I'm like, that's kind of the point of being the vice president, is you're not supposed to know all about them. That you're, you know, they are the stand in the shadows person. So as far as Buttigieg,
what is really interesting is they're pulling her out now to be partnered with Biden, like this whole thing with the release of the hostages today. When she got up, she spoke. She said she's worked right alongside. She's been part of the team that, you know, worked to get them out. And this is the kind of stuff we're going to start to hear more of, I think.
Okay. I think she is his right-hand man, so to speak. I think that she's been involved in a lot more than we understand as far as, you know, advising and carrying things out. And that's just kind of her job. I mean, I think she's probably fantastic at what she's been doing, and I'm excited to see her continue on as the president. So I think that's kind of the point as well, is she has her hand on the pulse of what's going on globally. She's not in the dark, she's in the shadows, you know, and that's the whole thing, is that this is a woman who has proven herself, I think, time and time again throughout her whole career, being a prosecutor, being attorney general, being a senator, being a candidate for presidency. Let's not forget, this woman ran for president all by herself before, you know, and if it wasn't for Biden coming out, who knows, maybe she could have been the candidate in 2020, you know. And so I think she has a valid resume for this position. And I think that the excitement that's gotten behind her is crazy, because what we were losing before was the youth. Okay. And I'll tell you this, I talked to a number of my football players who are all of voting age at this point, and their biggest concern about Biden was his age. And they would point out all the videos that are on their phone of him stumbling, whether it's with his words or physically. And they just had no motivation whatsoever to support this guy. And now there's a whole energy wave going through the youth because they're not opposed to a woman president. This is nothing in their imagination. It's not like 1950s where a man is a man and a woman stays at home. Although that's the way that the Republican platform sits, that is not the way that the normal American people see this situation. So I think that they're driving the youth. She's going to get the black women for certain, if not black population itself, involved in this. Don't forget, Obama won tremendous amount of support from the black who normally did not go out and vote. There was a lot of stay-at-home people that voted for the first time for Barack Obama. And that was because they were excited about what he was about to do. And I think the same is going to be true with Kamala.
Yeah. And a couple of points there. Number one, people, I hear it so much. Oh, what did she accomplish as vice president? You want to go ahead and help me with the list of what all the vice presidents have got? A presidency is about the fucking president. It isn't about the vice president.
Right.
Don't you see that every single president that has held office 4 years or 8 years, who do you talk about? Who gets the credit? Who gets burned? Who gets blamed? Who talks? Who's at the podium? Who's on TV? Who signed? The president, not the vice president. That doesn't mean the vice president. What do you think the vice president is doing, though? You think the vice president is sitting in a fucking office somewhere watching ESPN, chilling, drinking wine coolers all fucking day, smoking cigarettes, and doing nothing? No, the vice president's got duties to do, and I don't know them, but I'm sure they're briefed on that shit when they get there. So that sounds so fucking stupid. Qualifications. When you question someone's qualifications while supporting people that don't have qualifications, that's why I get entertained by stupid people like you. Polls. We know that. God, I have so much fun on social media, guys. I get some people tell me, Rob, it's a waste of time. Raphael, it's a waste of time. So-and-so is brain dead. I said, I know. That's why I'm here. It's how I have fun. I have fun all fucking day. It is amazing. So here,
entertainment.
Can I put something in there about these polls?
Please.
One of the things that I was reading was it looks like, if Trump happens to be in the lead in certain polls, the minute they throw RFK or anybody else in, it pushes Kamala Harris's numbers up and puts her within reach of Trump. So I find that very interesting. How long will Elon Musk or anybody else be giving RFK any kind of money? And how long are we going to realize?
Just like you're pointing out, Lori, they're going to realize, and it definitely is reflective in the polls, that Kennedy is taking votes from Trump. He's not taking votes from Kamala or even Biden when he was running. He's taking votes from Trump because that top tier of Republicans, they can't bring themselves to vote for a Democrat, but they can't bring themselves to vote for Trump. So the only other option is this third party wacko. This is a guy that's been negotiating for a position in the Trump administration. So, I mean, he is not an alternative in the Democratic sense at all. This is a fucking guy that is he's playing a game to try to get a job somewhere. He's going to drop out of the race, I guarantee it, because he's going to hurt Trump and by staying in, and they're going to recognize that, and they're going to get rid of him. So that's the thing. The other thing about polls, and I just want to kind of bring this one out while talking about it, when you have a state like Pennsylvania and you have a huge area, even Georgia, these states, they have huge population areas that are centralized within the state, but very rural everywhere else. So when you're doing a poll, if you're calling 14 different counties in that state, 13 of them very well could be red and only one of them could be blue. So your polling numbers are going to be skewed by the fact that who you called, who you polled is not really representative of the voting population in that state. So we have to be very careful. Like right now, Pennsylvania is a great example of that. Right now, you got Harris and Trump kind of tied. But what the hell is that about? Why? Because again, you're talking about, they called one guy in Philly, but they called somebody else all over the different state that is a red area. Those are very red areas outside of these major cities. So we have to keep that in mind, that's one of the reasons why polls are very deceptive in how they do it. And certain pollsters know this and target those red areas within blue states just to make it look like Trump has a lead.
Not only deceptive, as I mentioned to Coach before the show, I've been into politics since I was a kid. I'm reading about it, always interested in local government. Just something my dad got me into. My dad taught me read the front of the paper first, not the back. I know you want to read the sports. Guys, read the front of the paper. Eventually, he told me, okay, you can read the back now. But I learned a lot. And I've been in all kinds of cities and a lot of states. I've never done a poll. Nobody's ever called me. Nobody's ever sent me anything in the mail or an email. I have all kinds of friends and acquaintances. I've never talked to anyone, met anyone, been around anyone who's ever been a part of a poll. So to me, polls don't mean shit. But once again, always having fun with my social media friends. Polls mean virtually everything to Donald Trump. Polls mean a lot to MAGA, a lot. And when Trump and look, remember this Kamala train, this Kamala movement, all this money and volunteers and this, some people there are people that I've been listening to that were involved in the Barack Obama movement. And all of them, each one, not 9 out of 10. I'm not saying I listened to 10 of them, but 10 out of 10, all of them, 100% of them said that this is much bigger than that was. Okay? But polls, it means so much, But as soon as anything shows, and I was going to say, remember that a month ago, even we had to we admitted it when we came back on the air a few weeks back. Not looking good. Coach Lori, we knew that.
Scary. It was scary, especially after.
And depressing.
Essentially, Trump and the Republicans had it in the bag. They got what they wanted, turned around, and it wasn't what they wanted, which was Joe gone, Kamala in, and now the polls are different. So I'm going to share this, Lori. You're going to like this, Lori. And we're going to take a look at two diagrams, two maps. First one we're going to look at is the national polls. And I just saw, Coach, while you guys were talking, they don't just have the national polls on 538. Duh. They have every state as well.
Every state individually, yep.
And then on the next segment, we're going to go right into, and before we do that, I'm going to ask Coach a question, but we're going to go right into the map to 270 and take a look at that and the swing states, the important states. Coach, before we do all this, you mentioned some endorsements that come in for Vice President Harris.
Yeah, we were talking, with the UAW endorsing, that was a big deal. She was involved in helping with the picketing and stuff like that alongside Biden. So it was great to see that. And then Lori had questioned what's about the Teamsters, and I did a little research on the Teamsters. And one of the things that I came across with them was that the president of the Teamsters actually spoke at the RNC. And I was saying that's not really good, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything when it comes to necessarily who the union as a whole. But that'll be an interesting thing. But when you look at the unions that have endorsed her, you have the Federal Workers Union. Okay, they've endorsed her. And then you have also the AFL-CIO. Okay, that's huge. That actually is 60 different unions underneath one umbrella, okay, across the nation. A lot of healthcare workers, stuff like that. in that union. So she's scooping all the big endorsements. I think once the Teamsters come through and actually endorse her, and I can't see them going. There's no reason for a union to endorse a Republican. It's absolutely asinine when Republicans, by just breed alone, are anti-union. Okay, they want to have the corporations in charge of everything and have the right to tell the workers what's going to happen and how things are going to be. They want to deregulate everything. They want to control the cost of salaries so that the corporations can have greater incomes and stuff like that. So there's no real motivation for a Teamster union to get behind someone like Trump. So we'll see that. That would be a great watershed moment for the campaign to pull out that endorsement as well. But she's picking them up, every day she's getting somebody, whether it's an individual or a union, endorsing her that's given her credibility.
So we bring this up right now. Where am I at? Let's get the right thing up here. National Presidential and come on, mouse. Move for me. There we go. Lori, can you see that, Lori?
Unfortunately, I can't. Let me see if I can.
You can't.
Let me see. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Who's ahead in the national polls?
So, who's ahead in the national poll? This is 538. Projects.538.com. They do national polls, state polls. This one up here tells you it is updated as of August 1st, 5:01 p.m. Eastern time. Today. Today. August 1st is today. Hello, August. It shows, what do you know?
Harris. Yeah.
It is showing Kamala Harris at 44.8, Trump at 43.7, and this other guy down here at 5.5. I never understand this. I'm not going to give Kennedy any fucking airtime. I just did. So 44.8, 43.7. First thing first. Always the plus or minus within the margin of error. It's a close race, people. The 6-point leads, the 4-point leads, all that stuff is now out the window. The fight and everything that the Trump campaign prepared for, it got to go a little different. We'll talk about the route they've taken, although who the hell is surprised about that? So we look at these polls, and then I go over here, and I ask myself, okay, so Arizona right away, if you go in alphabetical order, I'm just curious, these polls, you'll see the dates that the oldest one is from July 22nd, 23rd from Emerson College. Had Trump at a +5, you had Trump at a +8, Trump at +3. And as July, now this is the 22nd, and they've moved the 24th to the 28th. Changes. Harris back to Trump +5. If you look, it's Arizona's, it's tight. It's tight in Arizona. Now, what I'm curious about, we know, Coach, as you had mentioned before, Michigan has become very, very interesting. We talked about the pick of Josh Shapiro and the weight that carries with the state of Pennsylvania. It's 19 electoral college votes, along with the 25 from New York, along with the 54 from California. I mean, you start adding that up, that adds up quick. That's a nice little haul of 101 to 270. But Michigan, Coach, 11 points up. It's showing here at this moment who's ahead in Michigan. They've got Harris 44.7 to 43.1.
Yeah, I think if you scroll, you'll see some individual polls will have her at a stronger. There you go.
And here it is right here. The Bloomberg poll, July 24th, 28 has her at a +11. That poll also shows at a +12. Trump running a +10 in the Detroit News Glenn Garrett poll, but the tide is turning.
The thing is, and this is the point with these polls, like Morning Consult Bloomberg is a pretty respectable poll. One of the most respected poll is the New York Times Siena College poll. I think that's the highest respected poll. But some of these other polls, like showing Trump even when one poll is showing Kamala at +10 and they're showing Trump at +1 or even, that's a biased poll, and it's not a good representation of what's really happening out there. So you kind of got to be a little careful on what polls you're believing in. Now there's some polls where it hurts my feelings to see Trump ahead in a good poll. So it does happen, but some of those polls are just self-serving for the GOP.
Oh yeah, and again with these polls, so take it with a grain of salt. We know what the polls were telling us. Listen, 2016 for me, you think of all the elections. I remember being teased as a kid. My friends were. I love the Super Bowl. Don't get me wrong. I love the NFL playoffs. Okay, please don't talk. But every 4 years, I also like to follow the presidential election and how the process, and I want to learn about it, and who wins, why do they win, and the excitement. And then January 20th, it's inauguration day, man. I mean, I don't know if you're a true American, and that doesn't do something for you. I don't know. Like, Coach, go have a drink, or 3 or 4, because that should move you. But we've talked about the Electoral College. Listen, voting should be popular vote. Everybody gets a vote, okay? If there's 100 million of us, or if there's 500 million of us, let's just have a vote. And the first one, the 250 or 250 million and one. Well, the one with the most votes, excuse me, not the first one. That's the wrong way to do it. But the one with the most votes wins, man. But it doesn't work that way. We have the Electoral College. And I'm going to see if I can get this a little bigger so that we can kind of. Yeah, let's get that bad boy a little bigger on the screen. Because I want to look, like I said, if you look, you got 54 and 28 right here is 82. Illinois 19, 101. So these are the 3 big blue ones. And the big question here is Pennsylvania, like we were talking about. Because when you look at this path, what are the states that we talk about? We talk about Pennsylvania. We're talking about North Carolina being in play. We're talking about Georgia. You see Georgia in this little, used to be red. I remember every time I used to see Georgia, Coach, growing up, it was always in red. And this guy over here, or this gal over here, Arizona. Yeah. So much to play here, Coach. But again, like we talked, the pick of Shapiro, to me, in my opinion, because one of the other ones is Michigan. Although you got to get the blue wall, Wisconsin. But I'm thinking not only does Shapiro give us Pennsylvania, but a possibility of getting that blue wall. If you can get that blue wall, baby.
This map is a representation of the current as of yesterday individual state polls. So when you're looking at Nevada, okay, Harris has the lead in Nevada, but it's not anything that would make that a blue, a solid blue state. It's a leans blue right now. Probably will stay blue. Same thing with Wisconsin. She has a lead in Wisconsin, but I just couldn't say that it was a guaranteed win on that. The North Carolina is a leans red kind of state. It's interesting that it's a lot closer right now in the polls than you would guess, because it's a lean red state. So that's why I have it kind of leaning towards the red there. But the other ones are toss-ups. So you have Arizona, Georgia, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. Those are toss-ups. Virginia has historically been blue, but it's a close race. Yeah. Pennsylvania historically been blue, but it's a close race. The idea in this is that we can lose North Carolina, we can lose Georgia, we can lose Arizona. As long as we win Pennsylvania and sure up Nevada and sure up Wisconsin, we're above that. So if you turn, Ralph, and make Nevada, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania solid blue, you'll see what the electoral count will be.
So say again?
Make Wisconsin solid blue, the
All right,
dark,
so
dark blue.
we take Wisconsin blue.
Nevada.
We turn Nevada blue.
And go to Pennsylvania and turn Pennsylvania blue.
And we turn Pennsylvania blue.
And where are we with the count now? 263. So that just leaves Virginia, which again has historically been blue. So if you click on Virginia and make that blue.
Yeah, that's over the top there. That's
all right. So where are we now? We're at 276. Okay. Right. So, that's a very likely map. When we throw away Arizona and Georgia, throw them out of the fight. Okay. The rest of these are very likely blue states. And so if we can shore up again with Virginia, I think again, it's a blue state. It's just the polls are very close. Pennsylvania is a blue state, though the polls are very close. I don't see a real good pathway for Trump in terms of the electoral college. I just don't see it. I think we can swing Arizona and we can swing Georgia as well. Throw North Carolina to Trump, he'll win that. And we're at 300 something.
Throw him North Carolina, Georgia, and Arizona.
Right.
Let's clear the map out, and you're still looking at.
He still loses.
He still loses. Which of these states now? Because again, you play with this so many ways. Which of these blue states is the most vulnerable to go red? Is that Virginia?
Right now, I feel like it's Virginia.
That would change.
Why?
Yeah.
Simply because the closeness of the polls. The polls are coming out with a +1 for Harris.
And if you look at elections, in Virginia in recent years, they've also been going more Republican, more right as well. So yeah.
The presidential elections, they've been a blue state.
They've been a blue state.
But this is still, we're talking about what? We're talking about 2 weeks into Kamala's, campaign.
Right.
She hasn't gone to Virginia to campaign yet.
And can I ask, isn't Virginia the one state that seems to go the opposite of what the president is for when it's a governor's race? That's why they're red now?
Yeah.
That I'm not familiar with, but okay.
Yes, Virginia has been tending to vote. Yeah, they've been tending to vote like a Republican governor, but they'll vote Democratic when it comes to the presidential election. I don't know. Make sense of that, okay?
Yeah. But again, there's still room. I mean, even if we lost Virginia and picked up Georgia or Arizona, we're still going to be above the 270 mark. And that's the critical point. Not only does 270 win the presidency, but Kamala has to get to 270 of the states that are willing to certify the election in order to secure the presidency.
Oh, boy. Now
and that's the problem.
You opened up the next can of worms. Let's stop there. We stop this sharing now. Let's talk about that. So, you know what really gets to me, guys? So, all three of us are from a time where, imagine this. Let me say it this way. Imagine the youth of today that doesn't understand the term like we did growing up, working across the aisle. Mm-hmm. It's something we grew up with. I grew up with. It'd be amazing sometimes when you would see the battles on TV or read it in the newspaper, especially reading in the newspaper. That's how we grew up. Oh, this one was battling this one. They disagree with this. It's talking shit about this one. Oh, wow, it's getting hot. And at the end of the day, oh, shit, they worked out a fucking bill. They worked something out.
All yes, right, and Biden was one of the biggest ones who could work across the aisle.
Right. Now that doesn't happen anymore because we live in a different day and age. Okay, fine. But I never imagined in my lifetime there would ever be a question about a presidential election. I mean, not that fraud wouldn't happen or couldn't happen. But Coach, you got to think, like, if the three of us right here were plotting this like one of the greatest crimes of all time, election fraud, right? We're gonna do it, the three of us. We're gonna find a way where millions and millions and tens of it's gonna be just fraud everywhere, right? First of all, listen, and I'm a guy I got a pair of cojones, all right? But you got to understand that you got to have a fucking pair of balls and a set of tits. I'm just gonna say it, okay? And a set of tits too. To come up with a plan, knowing that if you get caught, you're done. You're done. So how else can you do it? I don't. We'll never know who came up with the idea of the fake electors. Who came up with all this stuff? It's so much shit we've learned that they've gone through, right? The organizations that they've created. There are organizations right now that are sending, I think it's emails or some shit. They're trying to fuck with people's ability to vote. This movement for Donald Trump, for MAGA, for the right wing crazy nuts, they put a lot of thought behind it and planning. So they put fake electors, right? Election deniers. Could you have ever imagined that I look you and they didn't say it, but when you were campaigning, you might as well say it because everybody knew it. Hi, my name is Ralph Garcia. I'm running for state representative of Arizona. Yes, I am an election denier, and I was there on January 6th, and I think that there was massive fraud. So please vote for me. It's kind of like a campaign ad, like a gun to your head, right? Like, what the fuck did you just say? But that's basically what we have right now.
But think about this, Ralph. Think about this. We say, where did it start? Well, we've been hearing this since 2016. It's
right.
Everything. It's rigged. And
yeah.
Trump, he doesn't like elections. Period. He doesn't. He wants to get in. He wants to win and stay in and forget about elections and overall. So he is trying to convince the entire public that elections just don't matter and it's rigged. So this denial is all part of the GOP now.
Hey, what did he say? Coach, what did he say the other day? Oh, listen, just vote for me now. You want to vote me for 4 more years? Yeah. We'll have it fixed. You won't have to vote again. Then you try to clean it up, motherfucker. You just told us that if you win, we won't have to vote again. Go, Coach.
The idea of the fake electors, I don't know if you guys know the history with Kennedy and Nixon, but what happened during that campaign was that Hawaii ended up in a recount. Okay, mm-hmm. So Nixon's team put together its own electors in order to be able to submit the electors to the Congress. Because there's a deadline for Congress to receive those electors, they were putting in the alternate elector in case the recount came out and awarded Nixon the state of Hawaii. They would have the electorals there to vote for that and give him the electoral numbers. So there was this whole little thing that went on. And it was kind of on the up and up, though. It wasn't like they were trying to overturn the election and fake electors and convince the vice president to reject certain electorals and take the other one. But that was the precedent that set these guys like Eastman and these other lawyers into thinking that they could pull this off. So they really schemed pretty hard. And you got a lot of people that are deviant in their intellect. So they're smart people, but they're smart people in a very corrupt way. And so that's where this whole fake elector stuff came from. This is how they built on it. Now, as Ralph, you're pointing out, the election deniers are kind of like what the Republicans have done with the courts. They're starting to stack the cards in the election committees, the ones that are actually going to be counting and certifying the votes and stuff like that. They're getting these elected, and a number of states, those committees have already come out and said that they're not going to certify a win by the Democrats. And so what you have to look at is, well, what's what's the recourse that is able to be taken? So all the states have court systems that will handle this topic. So when there's an issue and they won't, and it happened in 2020, a number of electors would not certify the election, and it ended up in the courts, and the courts ordered them to certify the election. And so to start with, that's the first thing that let's assume Kamala wins in a particular state, and they're trying Arizona, for example, and they're trying
I just put it up, Coach. I put it up. I gave her Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, and I did it for a reason.
Oh, that's an ass kicking right there.
Because this is what has to happen. This is what has to happen. So all this election denial bullshit,
right?
All these motherfuckers that don't want to certify, that's what has to happen to shut this down.
Right, because in the other example, we were showing a 276, and I actually had it as close as 271 in one of my maps, and I think that was without New Mexico. But the point is that if a particular state withholds their electoral count and keeps Kamala from receiving the 270, then it has to go through an entire court battle. All these election denying states will end up in courts. And eventually the courts will have to decide it. And what will happen, though, is if by the time that you're supposed to have the electoral count certified by the vice president and the Congress, if no candidate has more than 270, then it gets thrown to Congress to decide the president. And this is where I think this is their best hope, Trump's best hope, is to keep Kamala from getting 270. Even if she gets the majority of the other ones and Trump loses the majority, as long as they can keep her from getting 270 by denying those certifications, then it goes to the House of Representatives to pick the president of the United States. So it is one of those things that I think is their long shot. This is their only hope of winning the election, is to do this. Now, it would seem kind of scary in the sense that the House right now is controlled by the Republicans. But by the time it came to that, it would actually be the new Senate. It would be the new Congress, the new House of Representatives. So because they go into office on January 3rd, and that's before the electoral count, before the inauguration. So we have an opportunity to swing that House vote back to the Democrats. But you have to get 26 states to go along with you. So the House of Representatives will pick from the top three contenders which representative which candidate they want to be the president. And then it goes to vote. And you have to get 26 states to vote on your side. Well, right now the Republicans have 26 delegates and the Democrats only have 24. So we really got to swing some things up in the bottom end of things for the worst case scenario. And we really need to swing things up there. But I don't see it working. I think that's such a long shot. And I think it's more of like me reading things into something that I can't see Trump winning in court when it's a decisive win and you just have people that are trying to sit on the win and not award her the points,
Crazy. So crazy. But now we're going to find out. I mean,
we'll find out.
Here's the thing, people. One of the things that I'm not a campaign guy, so I don't make up slogans or commercials, okay? So forgive me. But I would have liked to have heard this slip in every now and then from the Harris campaign. Something about, like Joe Biden did his job. He did the patriotic thing by stepping down, for the good of the country. And so, he's now gone. Now we have one more problem to get rid of, one more person, or whatever you want to call him. And let's start fresh. Let's move away from the past. Let's get away from all this. Let's start fresh. Look, I'd even say, I win, and in 4 years, you don't want me, you want to vote somebody else in, knock yourself out. But why don't we just wash our hands of all this shit and start fresh? It'd be something, I don't know.
I think Trump has killed the Republican Party. I think that as long as Kamala wins,
you think,
yeah, as long as Kamala wins this election cycle, I believe she'll be a 2-term president. I don't think that there's going to be another cult figure like Donald Trump, because Donald Trump, let's not forget it, Donald Trump came out of nowhere, so to speak. I know that he was popular from his show and stuff like that, but politically he came out of nowhere. He promised all sorts of stuff, and everyone took him on his word. They thought it was great to have a successful billionaire businessman run the country and so on and so forth. And so they got behind him. But that's why he also lost in 2020, because a lot of people came to realize that he's full of shit and he's a danger. And that's been the theme for the last 4 years in the news cycle, for sure. What kind of danger he is, you know? So what do you have there? What's his replacement? They're looking at J.D. Vance as his heir apparent. Are you fucking kidding me? J.D. Vance couldn't win a fucking school council fucking vote, let alone win an election. This is the greatest gift that the Democrats have been given, besides Biden stepping down, is him picking J.D. Vance, what a 2-year junior senator who's a fucking, he puts his foot in his mouth worse than Donald Trump at times. It's absolutely, it's a blessing to have him on the ticket with Donald Trump. I don't see another cult figure coming out of it. And now you've isolated this country to, you have hateful, racist bigots on one side of the ticket, the GOP, or you have a sensibility of empathy and sympathy and understanding and tolerance and all that on the other side of a ticket. Who the fuck are you going to join? If you're a psychopath or you're a racist, we know who you're going to vote for anyway.
Right,
So see you later. I don't
here's a scenario I'm wondering about. I mean, Trump's got to be getting all this stuff about Vance, JD Vance, and how negative it is. What do you think about him? What do you think about him kicking him off as his vice presidential running mate?
I think he'd be afraid to show that that's such a weakness that he had no faith in JD Vance, even though it was his personal pick. There's a number of people that were against it, that he went against their opinion and did the pick anyways. JD Vance has been on his knees blowing Donald Trump. Every time I've seen him on TV, JD Vance is blowing Donald Trump.
Well, so, you know what? I heard that the reason that he picked JD Vance is to get Peter Thiel. No, Peter Thiel.
Oh,
Peter
really?
Thiel. Yes, because JD Vance worked for him. He was one of his little proteges. And yes, Peter Thiel pulled away his money. And once, I think he kind of talked him into it. That's what I've heard. Now, again, I can't back that up with a source, but it is one of the stories that I had read.
It's great gossip.
Yeah,
no different than I heard it was Musk that wanted JD Vance, and that's why he pledged the $45 million a month contribution to Trump, and that's why Trump picked JD Vance. No matter what, Trump picked JD Vance because he thought somehow it was going to better his pocketbook. It was somehow going to lead to more money in his pocketbook, you know. And don't forget, I mean, Trump has, you know, this money that Trump raises is his money. This is not like the RNC raising money for candidates and holding it amongst themselves and sharing it with Donald.
He got that fixed.
Yeah, he has his own.
But here's the thing, though. JD Vance, I think, is just going to keep saying these stupid things. I mean, I don't know if you heard what he came out with today, calling Kamala a chameleon. We're talking about a man who's changed his name 3 times, right?
Yeah, his name isn't even JD Vance, right?
Chameleon.
Yeah.
What the?
He did. He called her that today.
But that's only backing up what Trump called her the other day when he said that, you know, oh, she used to be Asian, but all of a sudden she's black.
Yeah, but coming out of Trump's mouth is one thing. Coming out of his VP pick, I don't know. I could actually see him dumping Vance. I really could.
This is the problem. Like, we talk about his story, right? And Ralph was talking about it. And I think this is the problem. Back in the day, and we're all old enough to remember back in the day, candidates competed for your vote. They put out the pledge. They put out their platform. They wanted to make the working man stronger, and they wanted to go after this and help with wages and all. So they were trying to get your vote. They sold you on their policy. There's no more of that.
No more.
Donald Trump doesn't give a fucking rat's ass about you, Lori. He don't fucking want your vote. He wants nothing to do with you. He'd rather you be squashed like a bug. And all these fucking wackos that support him, they're the ones they appeal to. So who is he winning votes over? When he goes and he does what he does, and J.D. Vance does what they do and say what they say, they're not winning over voters that they need. Remember, Republicans are the minority in population alone, let alone, in every individual state. They are the minority. You need the independence. You need to cultivate that kind of support from those people. And you're not going to do it by being a fucking racist, being a bigot, being a sexist. You're not going to win these people over. Keep doing what they're doing.
That's good, because it takes me to this. Number one. When Harris got in, nobody knew, because the first thing was, anyone else going to challenge her? How are the Democrats going to handle this? Listen, the wave was so huge that's it. The Democrats knew, okay? They understood, how does the saying go? They understood the assignment. We can go through this whole fucking process and really screw things up, or just go with what we got. We got Kamala, get behind her, and let's just roll. So here's where we are. But I'm going now back to Trump and what you were just talking about. I like what you said, Coach, about, we both talked about back then and the way it is today. You remember back then when you saw debates, when you saw politicians on TV or read it about it on a newspaper, they talked about policy. So much so you're like, God damn, this is fucking boring, man.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to worry about that anymore, although Kamala Harris has been talking policy, but for the most part, you got drama now. Hey, debates and all that shit is about drama now. I'm going to talk more shit about you than you could talk about me. I'm going to call you more names than you can call me. I'm going to degrade you and demean you more than you can do me. That's just the way it works today. Now, here's my point. We can understand that the Trump campaign had to do a quick pivot. Like, wait a minute, everything we prepared was for the old guy and all that shit. Oh, fuck. Now, we got to regroup. Members of the RNC, members of the Republican Party that got common sense, even the assholes who got enough smart, put out a memo right after Kamala Harris got in and told the campaign and everybody else, people, I'm going to paraphrase, shut the fuck up with the nasty comments, the racist shit, and all the bullshit. Just stick to the policy. Bang her for everything we've been banging Joe for on his policies, and just tie it to her and leave well enough alone. Nope. They couldn't fucking do it. They had to show their true fucking colors, right?
Yep.
So now Trump gets another chance. I think we can agree here that the two biggest voting blocs in these beautiful United States of America are women and the black vote. Because basically, if you're a presidential candidate and the election hasn't happened yet, but you and the rest of the world know that you already have the women and black vote locked up, well, you're going to win the fucking presidency. I mean, that's just the way it goes, okay? So Donald Trump takes a trip to go hang out at the National Association of Black Journalists. An opportunity to tell black journalists and the black people of America what he has said before, what he has done for the black people, employment. Listen, I'm not talking about lies or truth. I'm just saying, if he talked about that, what did you do? What did he do? Here's what I did to do it. Here's what I'm going to do again. And even though it started so bad because the journalist, she didn't do anything wrong. So shut the fuck up, anybody. She just did her job, okay? But let's say, and I'm just going to say it, let's say the black bitch was nasty. Let's just say she was, okay? Trump was then handed another opportunity to be presidential and say, I really didn't appreciate the way you came out. But let me answer your question. And for black folks, and and no, 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 no. One thing we've noticed, and we know this, and whoever doesn't notice this, don't worry, I know. Your head's too far up Trump ass. You can't see anyway. The forest or the trees or anything around you anyway. Trump doesn't handle questions well in the first place. 2, he don't handle them very well from women. 3, he don't handle them very well from strong women. And 4, damn sure don't handle it well from strong black women. And what does he do? He lashes out. A blatant disrespect to all of them. Lori, did you see any of this? Did you hear any of it?
Oh my God, did I ever? Yes, yes, I did. Rachel Scott, who was the journalist.
Yes.
Yes, she was. She should be hired by Kamala to be her press secretary. That's what she should do, because she came right out. She called him out on so many issues. She put him on the spot by calling him a liar, basically, and saying how he's put black people down. And that was like the start of it all, But when we came to Kamala, I mean, all of a sudden, Trump said she became black. She became black all of a sudden. I mean, come on, give me a break.
I've been sharing, Coach.
Right.
Coach, hold on, Coach. I've been sharing quotes from Kamala Harris dating back nearly 20 years or better from her time in California as Attorney General, talking about her black race, proud of her black dad, Jamaican mom.
Harvard University graduates at the top of her class, and she's part of one of the biggest black sororities going. Give me a break.
Anyway, Coach, if someone's goal was to expose Trump's racism, golly, boy, did they do a good job of that.
I think there was a lot of controversy with them inviting him to talk. I think there was a number of people that within that organization that were really against it, to the point one of them actually resigned because they had gone forward and had him come. But I think, again, with Trump, you can always count on him to fucking do the wrong thing. And so when he comes out and he's insulting these black women that are journalists, asking him questions and basically, like you said, being strong and knowing their shit. That's the first thing. You got to know your shit against Donald Trump, because he's going to make up shit and tell you that he fucking did everything. If that motherfucker could get away with it, he'd tell you he freed the slaves. That's how fucking much of a liar this piece of shit is, right? Yeah. But my wife, she's Jamaican. She's a strong black woman. She hates Donald Trump, and she loves to point out that through all of Trump's legal woes that have been going on, mostly have come from black prosecutors, black judges, black women prosecutors, black women judges, And so it's kind of ironic that he goes on this stage with these women and thinks somehow he's going to woo the black vote by calling this woman nasty, by calling Kamala Harris a chameleon, if you will, the way that Vance is referring to it is, Kamala Harris not only went to Howard University, not only part of the largest black sorority in America, but was also a member of the Black fucking caucus in Congress. Okay. She ran on being a black woman when she was running, and she's proud of her heritage with her mother being Indian. She will tell you that she's a mixed person. She doesn't deny her heritage. She doesn't try to pick one side over the other. I don't think she ever pretended to be Asian. Just like my children, and this is a perfect example, right? My children identify as black, as Jamaican. And it's not because they don't want to identify as white. They certainly could. They're light skinned. They could try to pass for white if they wanted to. My daughter, much more easier than my son. But they choose that identification because that's the identification that society has put on them. It's how they've been treated by society that they've become a black person in this society.
Sure.
I think that's very true of Kamala because she's a person of color, and Indians are brown too. So she would be brown even if her father was Indian and her mother was white. She'd still be brown skinned because Indians are brown too. So she has this inability to get away from the color of her skin, regardless of her heritage. She can't get away from the color of her skin. And I guarantee you, she's been treated like a black woman her whole life. And I think she's accepted that and probably embraced that identity.
So I guess we can agree that you got to be a fucking moron to then turn around and say, wait a minute now. Well, she just became black. And I read that, I swear to you guys, because when he said it, that I heard it live, I said, oh shit, the cult's going to be repeating this shit all night long.
Yeah, that's.
I got up this morning about 1 a.m. Central Time. I started working, but the first thing I did was hit social media 47 times. I counted 47 times it was used. It was 1 a.m. Central, 2 o'clock Eastern. I said, boy, it's going to be a hell of a day with people repeating that shit all day.
What social media platform were you on?
Whoa.
The platform.
Hold on. All right, just give me a second. I heard a big bang, which was thunder, which means my dog is about to jump into the tub. Facebook, and Twitter.
Okay. You know what's interesting too? Like I said to you guys privately, this is a birtherism 2.0 on steroids. Because now they're putting her birth certificate up and they're questioning the fact that she might be from Canada because she spent some of her youth.
And it's not just that. He made comments about, I forgot what line he used, what he said, but he was basically saying, because she's a woman. Like, because she's a woman. You know what? Fuck you. Here's what bothers me, Coach. I'm talking to you, Coach. The man here, the other man here. I'm proud to be a man. I'm proud of the values. We have certain rules as men that we're supposed to follow. We're supposed to be providers. Our families count on us. All these things. Good father, good husband. Well, okay, fine. But it is amazing to watch people across this country, like Donald Trump. All he has to say is, last night, and I was looking at it, with goddamn pigs. It was raining pigs. Them damn Democrats found a way to drop pigs from the sky. And you will read it everywhere. Everywhere. This is the environment we're in. But instead of taking the opportunity to reach out to America, listen, Trump's running to save his fucking life, man, for his freedom. Dude, you would think that you would have some kind of plan, right? As a matter of fact, I might well say it here. I'm going to go first. I never go first. Final thoughts. It is amazing. I will grow old, thinking of so many things. I can imagine the things you think of as you get older. And I think about stuff now, end of life. How much time we got left? We don't know. What will I remember? What will I forget? Hopefully, I'll remember this, though. Because for tens of millions of people to be so transfixed on this man, for the most common, decent human being or so you think, to tell you that Donald Trump is a good person. He loves America. He wants to do things that no other president. You're right. He does want to do things that no other president has ever done, and it ain't got shit to do with policies or helping you or helping me, helping MAGA. Now MAGA's going to be his because he cares about one thing first and foremost. That's his ego. If you kiss his ass, suck his dick, whatever it is, listen, Donald Trump's going to love you no matter what. If you're the scum of the fucking earth. But it is just amazing. So here's where my final thought goes. It wouldn't matter to me if it was Nikki Haley, fucking Tim Scott. Let's just say we didn't want Joe Biden, right? Who fucking cares? We got to get the hell away from this guy. Biden's gone. I agree with you, Republican. Fucking done. He was done. He was done. Had to go. Had to go. Got to get rid of Trump. Now there's only one way to do it, and that's that map I showed, 319 to 219. It's gonna have to be a fucking blowout. We're gonna have to have a fucking Ronald Reagan type of election here to shut this down. Because once we do, people, we have the opportunity here on the show. I look forward to the first Tuesday after inauguration, so that maybe we can say, it's been a crazy 10 fucking years. Can we now move forward with the rest of our lives and leave all this shit behind us? Lori, final thoughts, Lori.
Well, my final thoughts are, I'm just watching what's going on the media. And I'm loving what I'm seeing for a change. I think they need to be giving Kamala all the time that they have, and it's driving him absolutely insane.
Which is one of the reasons why he did what he did. It's because he needed more media attention.
Which is probably right. And speaking of that event, it ended when she started asking him a question about Project 2025. That was it. Trump was done. They're trying to distance themselves. That was big in the media before Kamala came. They were starting to bring it. I think they need to bring it back up and keep going stronger with that. And I do love having her getting all the accolades that she is right now. And I think it's driving him crazy, which just makes me laugh. So that's my final thought.
It's going to come up. Screensaver on the phone. That's right. Screensaver.
Yeah.
Get over it. Get over it. Coach, final thoughts.
I think Lori's right in pointing out that Trump he's such a narcissist. He needs to be the center of attention, even if it's negative attention. He'd rather the host of MSNBC programs be talking about how vile he is than to talk about how wonderful Kamala is.
Yeah.
Because to him, it's good enough. The most interesting aspect to put it all together is that you have to look at it like we went from despair, concern, nervousness, even scared about the Biden matchup with Trump, especially after the debate. But certainly even before that, there was a lot of concern. The race seemed very tight. It was very nerve-wracking. And within 2 weeks, all that has changed. And this is just the beginning of her campaign. And I think it's such a perfect setup, because I think that if we had followed her from the beginning, if she was the candidate from the beginning and it wasn't Biden, I think they would have petered out by now. The excitement would have been gone, and people would just be sick of politics, just waiting for the election to happen. All that motivation is still right there. It's still current, and it's only less than 100 days away from the election now.
That's right. So
keep that in perspective. Like I said in the private chat with us, the polls are not an indicator of who's going to win the election, but they are an indicator of where the attitudes of the voter is going. So when you see a poll in, say, Pennsylvania start to show a Harris edge of a +2, +3, +4, those types of numbers are very positive towards the attitude change that's occurring. Don't forget, a lot of people are still like trying to wash Biden out of their mouth. So they're not
Yeah.
not fully aware of what Kamala is about. They're not fully aware of the energy that's behind her, but it's going to catch on. It's a wildfire. That wildfire is current. It's burning. It's burning acres and acres and acres. It just hasn't burned your house down yet. And that's what's going to happen. It's going to move and it's going to catch you and you're going to catch on fire and you're going to catch it.
Yeah, I like that, Coach. I like that.
One last thing, okay? I don't know. Out of nowhere, my wife comes in, and this is my last and final thought. Okay, she comes in and she says, "I want a shirt that says say it to my face."
Yes.
And she's like, "If you see a shirt that comes out with Kamala that says say it to my face, I want that shirt." I said, "All right." And I looked it up, and sure enough, it's a reference to what she said about Donald Trump. If you got something to say it to my face. I think that's a great T-shirt.
Yeah. Let me add to the final thought by saying, so, Orange Daddy, let me ask you a question. So you don't have no problem debating the old guy, right? Older than you. And I don't blame you. Because, I mean, I could debate Joe Biden. I don't know shit. But I can hang and he can't. I can keep a thought and he can't. I can keep babbling and babbling and babbling for fucking hours, man. And he can't. Now it's Kamala. Look, people. So if there's anybody out there who wants to compare Kamala's IQ to Trump's, once again, your head is so far up his ass. There's no need for us to have that conversation, okay? Because that's not a conversation. It is not a conversation. Stop. I had to check a few people on social media. Please stop. You're really making yourself look more stupid than Trump next to Kamala Harris. Why won't he debate her? What's the problem? What's the problem? I mean, what's the problem? You know what you're going to do. You know what you're going to say. You know the attack. It isn't like, for example, okay, so I'm going to talk about policy with her. I got to figure out which policy she might be strong with. He's not going to talk about her fucking policy. It doesn't matter if he's prepared. He's going to insult. He's going to berate. He's going to disrespect. That's what he does.
But wait,
yeah,
she is really good at the comebacks on those things. Look what she did to Biden in the debate. She silenced him when she said she was the black girl on the school bus.
And listen, you think Trump wants to get embarrassed?
She'll slam him. She will slam him.
She'll slam him.
Embarrassed. It would be, listen, Coach, it would be a joke it should be a joke of a debate.
It certainly would be a joke of debate from Donald Trump's perspective. I think it would be a tremendous contrast between those two as people, not as candidates, but as people. You know, I think it would show that not only is she a strong black woman,
yeah,
but it'll also show how educated, how in tune she is to America, how passionate she is about the needs of Americans that she wants to, to fight for and stuff. Where, see, Donald Trump, he loses on all cards because there's no more lock her up. Let's not forget the reason why he won.
Lock him up.
Yeah, but the reason he won debates against Hillary is because he can go nasty and lock her up, lock her up. I'm going to put you in jail. I'm going to do. He never debated on a policy level with anyone because he's not a policy-minded person. He probably couldn't even fucking list 3 things off his own policy on his fucking website. He has no clue of policy. He's a puppet. He's a puppet for other people.
And they've learned from the debating that he had with Hillary, because him standing behind Hillary when she was speaking, that was all intimidation. You think Kamala's going to let him do that? No, hell no.
Well, I don't think the debate's going to happen, so I don't think we don't have to worry about it.
But I think that's to
It
his
should be a
peril.
requirement. It
Yeah.
should be a requirement.
I think that's to his peril. Yeah, you know what he would say is he already debated the nominee back in when he debated Biden, and so
He's going to come up with an excuse.
But that is only going to give the Democrats a lot to work with by him dodging it. I've already seen memes about how did the chicken cross the road, or why did the chicken cross the road, to avoid debating Kamala with Trump's head on the chicken body and stuff. I mean, you know, Trump is so big on Chinese, it's understandable. He's in a fucking orange chicken himself, you know, that kind of shit, you know.
I know, all kinds of shit. Thank you for joining us this evening, folks. This is Attack on the Politicos. It is the NGSC Sports Weekly Political Show. I'm your host, Ralph Garcia, joined by the coach and Lori. We'll see if we'll be back next week. I'll be back Sunday to talk baseball with the guys. Remember the website. It is ngscsports.com, where you catch all of your current content. Until then, peace and have a good night.